Good morning. This is Martin John, and we are here on a Newbie Tuesday. This is the second Newbie Tuesday, which just means that anybody that has not come up to speak to me will get a little bit of preferential treatment. They'll move to the head of queue if there happens to be a queue. I haven't really had queues recently. Sometimes there are up to 4 or 5 people in the queue, and new people might tend to drop off just if they have to wait that long, because it could take me over an hour to get through 5 people with 15 minutes per person. So any new person or any person that I believe is new, because maybe I've spoken to you before, but I don't recall or what have you, will get to move to the head of the line. So if you're new and you have been listening for a while, or if you've been listening for years and haven't come up but would like to break that duck, I'm always open to speaking, and I'm easy. I don't bite, as they say, and would love to speak to any new people out there. That's not to say that my regulars go to are not welcome. Of course, everybody is welcome, but today I will move any new people to the head of the line. So for all of those of you that speak to me regularly, I might have to hold out to allow someone new to come in. It's wonderful to have new people engage. I actually had a conversation with a new potential client the other day, and he heard about me through someone else that I know really well, and she mentioned, it was kind of like, for those of you that have been listening for a while, know about that the universe tests you. The universe gives you cycles. The universe gives you experiences. And I've been really drilling this down, this idea that everything that you experience in the world, if there's anything that you don't like in the world, there's something about yourself you don't like, because the world is really just a reflection of you. And so being able to enjoy this life no matter what comes and not complain about any singular thing, that just gives you the opportunity to experience this life as it is without having it to be anything for you. Once again, that revolves around the idea of living reasonably. It's reasonable for us to accept life as it is. If it's flooding, okay, I understand that could be frustrating, like if your house gets flooded and things, but this is an experience that we're having. And I know that we can chalk that experience up to bad, but maybe it's taking us to a new place. Maybe it's giving us the opportunity to experience something new. It's funny. Yesterday I drove with my mom and my stepdad from Virginia back to the Chicagoland area. And I drove 7 of the 11 miles, 7 of the 11 hours. And it was wonderful because as the driver, I was able to be like, hey, is it okay if we don't listen to music, if we don't fill the quiet? And there were moments where we talked and moments where they slept. And in those 7 hours, we didn't hit any real traffic. Everything went fairly well as far as I can tell. As soon as my stepdad, and this is no slight to him or anything, but as soon as he got into the seat, everything was bad. It was too hot. And the sun was definitely coming in the car in a way that it hadn't before, because it was behind us rather than being next to us or in front of us. So that was legit. It was a legit argument. However, just because the argument's legit, the question is, well, do you want to make it? When we talk about that verse, an invitation to conflict, and I'll pull that up, and that might be my verse for today. Let's see, an invitation to conflict, number 69. This is an invitation to conflict. You're in the car and it's hot. You can bring it up as a problem. You can say, this is a problem. It is hot. Well, yes, okay, that could definitely be something you want to address. But we're in a car that has air conditioning. Yes, even though there's air conditioning, the sun beating in the window is still hot. But, there's not much that can be done about that. The sun wasn't even like coming down on his side. It was coming down on my side. And that's why I brought a little hoodie so that I could cover myself, so that I wouldn't get too crazy because I knew when I'd be driving, the sun was on my side. And when I was a passenger, when I was driving to Virginia, the sun was on my side. And when I was a passenger going home, the sun was on my side. So it's this interesting sort of, I didn't have any complaints. However, my stepfather really, he would complain about that. And he would complain about people that were driving, and he would complain. And it was interesting, as I was doing that, there were times when I thought, man, I wish he would just stop complaining, and then I thought, okay, well, this is my experience. Let's take some notes about how I'm experiencing this, because I'm not going to accept the invitation within myself to conflict with what's going on around me. There were times where the banter, the back and forth between my mom and her husband were just, I was like, what is the purpose of this? In my mind, because I was driving for 7 hours and I was on the road and all of that, right? It's like, I remember yesterday, if you recall, we were talking about, make use of every situation. So I kept thinking that. I could make use of this situation. So I would take notes about what upset me or what frustrated me about this interaction, about this thing that's happening. And now I have a handful of things I could look at and I can say, what is that saying? Right? In my experience, what was happening was Don was my stepfather. He was complaining about other people, like not closing the gap, but he had huge gaps between himself and others. And his dad was a truck driver, so he gave preferential treatment to truck drivers. Even if they weren't trying to come over, he would stay behind truck drivers or not want to pass on the right, even though the signs were saying trucks need to stay on the left. There's all these little things that, he would utilize as conflict. And then there were sometimes some of those things dripped over to me, and I would be then in conflict with how he was reacting. And so that's for me to work on, right? Like, utilize every situation. So I took those moments to jot down little things so I could remember what happened, and I can take myself back to that moment and say, well, what was the problem? Yes, it's true. I was in a car for 12 hours. And so my nervous system was shot and I was uncomfortable and I was hot and, I was in jeans. And so my butt was, sweaty and it was not pleasant, but it's also true that just because you're uncomfortable, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a jerk. Right? That doesn't equate to that 100% of the time. Maybe a lot, but it doesn't have to do that. And so because it doesn't have to do that, I can take that home and I can go, okay, well, what are the little things that I see here? And that doesn't mean I'm going to find them. It just means, hey, look at these things that are going on. And if I can find my notebook, if I can read a couple out. And again, because these are my thoughts and my assumptions about what is going on with him. It has absolutely nothing to do with what is going on with him, like as an individual. Like it's not about him having an experience. It's about me experiencing him having an experience. Now that gets filtered, and I can't know if that's right, but I'm still responding to it. And so all those things being true, all those things, those things are invitations to conflict. I could be the victim. I could be the victim of him being upset. And I could be like, couldn't you just not be so pissy? But the question is, why do I need him to not be pissy? I'm not here to dictate what, and again, this goes back to the idea of reasonability, being reasonable, living in a reasonable way. It is not reasonable to ask somebody else to not be pissy. They can be as pissy as they want. Why am I affected by it? That's the question. Now, I take that home with me and I say, these are the reasons why I might be affected by his being pissy. I'm saying, well, he doesn't have to complain about that. Why is he complaining about that? And then I say, oh, well, where in my life do I not have to complain about things and I'm complaining about them? Where am I in my life am I trying to change the way things are going and change how things are? Where in my life is that happening? So number 69, an invitation to conflict states, in conflict, the master will never host aggression. She would much prefer to be a guest and relinquish space rather than claim it. For me, as he was getting upset, I was telling story around why I was upset that he was upset. That's hosting aggression. Now, I didn't put it out into the world, but that was my body, my vessel was hosting aggression. As I was hosting aggression, I was keeping it to myself as he was expressing his frustration, expressing his conflict, expressing his aggression. I was also expressing aggression, but it was subdued because I didn't want it to spill out into the rest of the car. Because all that would do would invalidate his frustration. He's perfectly within his right to be frustrated at other people driving. That's, like whatever. I mean, it's his unhealth, right? It's his disease. I'm not going to engage with that, but I'm going to look at mine. I'm going to, like as we were talking yesterday, I'm going to take the opportunity to look at myself. I'm going to look at this from the perspective of like, I'm not going to let this opportunity slip by. I'm not going to miss the opportunity for me to learn about myself. I'm not going to miss the opportunity to learn about who I am. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at Don and I'm going to allow him to be upset. But when I get upset that he's upset, now I have some work to do. Now I have work to do on myself because I don't want to host aggression. And whether or not I'm hosting aggression between him and I or the car, the people in the car and I or traffic and I'm the host. And it's going to start from within me. And even if it never gets outside of me, even if it's completely internal, that's creating conflict. Unnecessary conflict in my life, in my body, getting learned by my mitochondria, getting learned by my cells. They're learning how to conflict. They're practicing conflict. They're practicing aggression. And I don't want to teach them that. I don't want my body to learn how to be aggressive. I don't want my body to learn how to judge. I've done enough of that. We're not going to go back. And I'd prefer not to go back to a time where I was judgmental and unhealthy and having to pacify myself every day with either food or drugs or alcohol or whatever it was that I was doing in order to get through a day that has such a high tax. It then says, this allows the host, whoever's hosting that aggression, to exhaust themselves without the master having to weaponize anything. Now, the host, when it is you, it's a you. If you are hosting aggression, like the frustration is coming up because I'm uncomfortable, the frustration is coming up because I have things in my periphery, in my life that need addressing. But that host of that aggression needs energy in order to exist, needs energy in order to grow, needs energy in order to affect me, needs energy in order to do all of that stuff. And where is that energy going to come from? It's going to come from me, right? That energy, like I have to feed it with more aggression. I have to feed it with Don is wrong, he's upset, and I'm upset because he's upset, and I'm a victim of him, right? All of that story that could get built while I'm sitting in here exhausted and stuff. And that's all coming because of my exhaustion. Well, if I'm exhausted, I don't want to invest in aggression because they're hungry ghosts. You feed it a little bit of energy, it'll just consume it without giving you any sort of, without giving you anything in return. It's just going to eat, it's just going to consume and consume and consume and consume. So if I were to not have had my notebook with me, which I don't even know where it is right now, and it really doesn't matter what I wrote down. What matters is that I did write it down. So it's in me somewhere. I have faith that it's there at least. And that I checked myself while I was in this state of hosting or possibly hosting aggression within my own system. Right? I never, and nor would I have ever at this stage in my life, came up with the idea that, oh, Don, you need to be quieter. You need to be less, you need to be calmer, you whatever. I would have never said anything like that. So for me, it was, all right, well, I'm not going to host aggression outwardly, but the aggression was within me, right? So many times I was rolling my eyes and doing all these sorts of things, like from the passenger seat, unknown and not being seen as doing those things. And why was I doing those things? Because I was frustrated and I was taxed and I had driven 7 hours already. And so like all of these things could be good reasons why I was frustrated. However, there's no reason to let that spill out. There's no reason to let that come out and affect others and want to affect others, right? Because I don't want to host aggression. Right? As the master doesn't host aggression, I allow the host, even that host within myself, enough space to exhaust themselves. It's not going to get more energy from me, because if it did, it would continue and then it would spiral. And then eventually I would say something. And something that I don't want to say, something that like there is nothing wrong with him getting upset at traffic. Absolutely okay. People do that all the time. What's wrong with that? Is it healthy for him? I mean, I can't imagine that it is, but it's not my place to say. But I know it's not healthy for me, so I want to be able to let it go. I want to be able to let him spiral out of control if that's what he needs to do. Melissa, how are you?
I am glad that I joined you, Martin John, because I needed to hear what you were saying about allowing people to be frustrated, and it's perfectly reasonable for them to be frustrated. I just don't have to react to it. I can be calm, cool, and content because it's their frustration. I don't need to take on their whatever they're dealing with. So I'm glad that I joined you, my friend.
Yeah, it's a tough thing sometimes because, one, you're in striking range. Like you're in the whirlwind, possibly, of someone else's stuff. And so they may, as victims, want you to agree with their frustration or want you to validate their struggle. That's a tough thing if they want you to validate their struggle. John wasn't doing that to me, right? He was just saying, what's this guy's problem? What's this problem? Why are they doing this? Wow. Oh, man. Now we got to go. Oh, God. Like all of that kind of stuff. And I'm just sitting there like going, okay, well, it's another mile to here. And then you're going to make a left, like doing what I have to do to just like dismiss and not engage. My mom and her husband have a relationship in which they each ask each other, sort of, to engage their grievances. And so my mom will say, oh, yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe he's doing... And then they tell story, which I'm not a big fan of story. They tell story about why one thing is one way or why someone is doing something. Maybe they're seeing it this way. Like just telling the story. And it's like, that's not helping at all. I see that. And so I'm not engaging. But it's difficult sometimes when people ask you to validate their frustrations. But if you can just sit there and just be like, oh, okay, good. That's my favorite. Oh, okay, good. It's like, oh, we got to drive another mile. Oh, okay, good. Oh, this guy's going so slow. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I didn't even say that because I didn't, because if I did respond, I was so uncomfortable that I would have been aggressive. And there was no reason to be aggressive. So.
Yep. Well, that's what I'm going to do when I go back up to the hospital today. I'm just going to let her be frustrated because if she needs to feel like a victim, I can understand her frustration, but I don't need to react to it. I just need to be there. And as long as I attend to my needs and I'm rested, as long as I eat my breakfast and, take a book with me to occupy myself while I'm waiting, then, I can just be, yeah.
It's not easy, especially when we love these people and we want them to feel comfortable.
Right, and I understand when somebody is constantly poking you and prodding you, but it's for good reason. They're not doing it, they're doing it to figure out what's going on,
Right.
And
No one and that's the thing. Usually things happen not because people are being mean,
right,
but things happen because people have to do something. Like even in traffic, everyone is trying to go somewhere. And some people are scared. I observed that Don has certain fears when it comes to driving, and he's okay with having his fears. But if anybody else expresses their fears by not driving in a predictable way, he can get frustrated. And it's like, well, how is it that you're okay with how you do it, but you're not okay with how they do it? Or if they don't have fear, he's upset because that gives him fear, right? Like all sorts of things. Even when I was driving, we almost hit a deer when I was driving. And I saw the deer in the corner of my eye and I took my foot off the brake and everybody freaks out. I took my foot off the gas and everybody freaks out because they see the deer. And I'm like, I see it. And I slow down and I had to brake hard. But, we did it we got away and the deer bounded off and everything was fine. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Like this is what you do when you drive. You know, you pay attention.
You pay attention.
And if I were to have hit it, we would have dealt with that. You know, it would have been okay."
I actually saw 3 deer crossing the street the other day, and luckily it wasn't right in front of me. I mean, it was in front of me, but not right in front of me. And they didn't get hit, and even there was a little baby one that came prancing out after the 2 other ones, and they got across the street safely. So I was like, "Oh, look, they all made it safely."
You know, driving, because I ride a motorcycle as well. Deer are. I mean, that's like, if a deer bounds in front of me on a motorcycle, that's it for both of us. You know what I mean? So I'm really cautious of deer, especially when you enter a deer crossing. Like, it's nice that it's summer and not spring, because in summer you can see them. They're nice and bright tan, you know, like against the green. It's really easy because that tan has a lot of red in it, and so you see it. It's hard to miss. Not that you wouldn't, but it was, you know, and those are little things, you know, that can get to you. Those are little things that, you know, that are invitations to conflict, you know, like little in different ways. You got a number for me?
I do. We're going to go with number 30, my friend. I was sitting in front of a train a few minutes ago, and 30 kept coming up on the train cars. 30, 30, 30, 30. So I'm like, I'm going with 30.
Tao does not dominate. Mm-hmm. Governing in any capacity when led by Tao doesn't use force to gain power. Every force applied will suffer an equal counterforce. So violence, however it is intended, will always rebound upon itself. Where armies march, briars grow, and in their wake follows hunger and villainy. Skillful in what she does, the master achieves her goal and stops, neither forcing nor manipulating further. She knows that dominating goes counter to Tao, and whatever opposes Tao will certainly die early. You know, I mean, you mentioned earlier you're going to the hospital today, and my guess that's for your mom. And forcing her to accept her situation is futile.
Yep, it is.
You know, like,
it is.
Like you're not
right. No, I'm not going to win that battle.
You're not going to win that battle. And the more you want her, and the more you want, and the more you discuss that, or the more you want her to do that, the more you engage in her doing that, the more energy she's going to muster to oppose you. And that's why this line, you know, like, where armies march, briars grow. When you march your armies along her will to be a victim, or her will to be upset, or whatever that is, she's going to harden. She's going to become full of briar, woody, thorny briar. And that's why it says, you know, skillful in what she does. Now, we're still learning how to be skillful in what we do.
Right.
Right? But the master achieves her goal and stops. So the thing is we're still trying to be skillful in this. So how we achieve our goal, we might not know how we're going to do that.
Right.
Right? But sometimes we know when it's too much. Sometimes we know instinctively there's nothing I can do. Let me just not do anything. You know, bring your book, read it. A good response is always, okay, good. I can't believe they're doing this. Oh, okay, good. They're doing it again. Okay, good. You know, not in a dismissive way, even though it is dismissive, because I have no intention of taking seriously that you're a victim, because you're not.
All right.
Right? And so I have no intention of being complacent and being a compatriot in your idea that you're being victimized, because really what's happening is you're being cared for.
Exactly. And they're trying to figure out what's going on and treat her to the best of their ability.
Right. Now, we can be cynical and say, well, they're not doing that. They're trying to just rack up the bills and other things like that. And that's true, because that can be true, because, they do have benefits to doing that. There are benefits to doing that, that are greedy and what have you. But if that is true, then you have attracted that as well. And I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? So embracing this for you, again, embracing who she is and being like, look, I love you and I'm going to stand by you, even if I can't stand with you in your own victimization. I'll be here holding you like Tao. I'll be here supporting you, but I can't create in my life what you're electing to create in yours, which is strife and aggression and frustration. And, you're trying to, every force applied will suffer an equal counterforce. So for you, if you try and it says, so violence, however it is intended, will always rebound upon itself, but also rigidity of her, like you will only, maybe this is true, I don't know. You want her to be more flexible. You want her to accept the situation. You want her, you're wanting her to do something. It's only going to rebound upon itself, and she's going to want you all that much more to agree with her. And then that's just going to crescendo, right? You'll be frustrated that she's not agreeing with you. She'll be frustrated that you're not agreeing with her. And this is how you're spending your vacation.
All right. No, like I said, I'm going to take my book up there because I needed to get caught up on. This is my book for my small group tomorrow. And nice. I'm going to take that with me. And I got to find her little medical journal that I keep her notes in so I can write.
And bring her a treat. Everybody likes a treat.
I know, but I don't think she can have one because they're doing a procedure today. So
the treats aren't always food.
Oh, well,
I don't know. Does she do crossword puzzles?
No. You know what? It's funny. I have a great idea. There's a book and it's like grandma, tell me your story. And so maybe that'll be like that encouragement. I'll take that and a pen and be like, Mom, have you written down everything that you want your grandkids to know? And maybe that'll give her a chance to try to be focused and cognizant so she can share her story with her grandchildren.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. And that way to take her out of the frustration and focus her attention on something else, Yeah,
and to know,
I know you don't like to tell a story, Martin John, but
no. But people love story. People love story. I was actually, a friend of mine started this group and she sent me a potential client and I had a conversation with this person and at the end, like my friend told me, she told me, he really said that you don't like story. And I was just like, well, he picked up on that. In one 30-minute call, he picked up on that. And I don't want, it's true. I don't like story. But I don't want to hamper other people from having story unless you're going to elect to work with me. If you're going to elect to work with me, I'm going to tell you how silly your story is. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to break it down because oftentimes, and for this man especially, like our identities are attached to these stories, and these identities, although they could be rocket boosters to get out of the atmosphere of a planet of our own making, if we don't drop those stories, if we don't drop those rocket boosters, we can end up just orbiting the planet forever, rather than being able to drift off into space with all of the potential of all of space in front of us. Our boosters sometimes become anchors. And so we need to be able to drop those sometimes.
Well, thank you again. I'm going to, get some things together.
Wonderful. Well, you just dropped off. If there's anything you wanted to add to that, I would love to bring you back up if you had anything to add. Otherwise, I get it. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Send my best to Pat. And, you guys stay strong in the face of all this. And Tao does not dominate. There's nothing here to dominate. Nothing here that has to be dominated. Life is easy. Thank you so much. Sandy, buddy, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great.
I
still have a woodchuck problem, but I'm doing fine.
That damn woodchuck.
That damn woodchuck. How much wood would a woodchuck? I'm hopefully not much, because that house is made of wood.
Oh, dear God. Oh, no, I live in a brick building, so I don't care about woodchucks.
Okay.
So it's funny when you were talking about story.
Yeah.
I was on the phone with this friend who tells the same story over and over again. And I finally interrupted her.
Good.
And I said to her, does your family know that you handle, stress this badly? She goes, what do you mean?
Of course.
And I said, well, yeah, you handle stress. Oh, yeah, they know. They're worried about me. And I was like, so they put this extra stuff on you knowing it's going to kill you. Is that what you're trying to say to me? But they're worried about you. And it's just like,
this is addiction. I'm worried about you, but I'm not willing to be uncomfortable in any way to help with what I think might be a problem with you.
Yeah.
That's like negative consequences be damned. I am an addict, and I can now not only put all of my BS on you, I can also worry that you have too much BS on your plate.
And Martin John, while we were talking, she was talking, I took a shower, I did dishes, I just kept moving. I'm like, oh my God, this is mental. I know I'm not supposed to use that.
She's just talking at you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that you're actually doing, nothing, because you're not even really holding space.
No.
Because she couldn't appreciate, she's not going to be able to utilize any space anyway. Mm-mm. So there are times where, like, I know people like require space, and I literally sit, and even if they are talking at me, they're processing because I'm sitting and I'm holding that space. But then there are times where I just put the phone down and go about my business and let them talk their pretty little face off. And that's not holding space, because even if I were to hold space, they wouldn't be able to utilize it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just was like, oh my God, I thought of you because I'm like, this is a freaking story and a half.
Yeah, that's right. Those and stories get us really lost, I think. Yeah. And it's not that story is bad, right, but story is created. Because if you were to listen to your story and then listen to your complaints about the world or whatever, you'd see the connection. I had someone talk to me about getting hit by a truck, but then he was like, okay, well, I've had all of these flat tires recently. And I'm just like, you don't see any connection between getting hit by a truck and a flat tire. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, like there is. Yeah. You've been dealing with this for over a year, and you didn't have enough awareness to see that, like, your identity and your problem are connected. So, and this is ultimately when it's like, when we talk about like those rocket boosters that help you, like AA, right? So for myself, I started getting sober in AA. AA is a wonderful rocket booster to get you sober for the first year, whatever, however long you need AA, whatever. But eventually, as you grow, we need to drop the institutions. Just like in the Tao, it says, if institutions form, know where their reach should end. And it's not their reach necessarily in the world, although that's true, but it's their reach in your life. Like we look at institutions as being the be all end all, like government or education or the health industry, right? Like the health industry and like the energy, like woo-woo world of energy and Tao and stuff have been separated for so long. We don't have any connection between the two, where like other cultures, they're combined. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to my soothsayer and they're an MD or whatever, you know. That story. It's a bear.
Yeah. And the story I've been telling myself over the past couple of years is my sister did me wrong, right?
Yeah.
She treated me so badly. And I was sitting there just having a quiet moment on Sunday, and I went, you know, Sandy, no one's treated you worse than yourself.
Right.
You know?
That's it.
So
like,
let it go.
You're your worst enemy. It's like finally win that battle.
Right?
By befriending yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Like by
absolutely.
It's like when you, my sister did me wrong. Oh, is that because of your own expectations? Is that because of what they did to make themselves happy? What is it that was so wrong about what you did? And this is where we talk about, you know, like living reasonably. Is it reasonable to say your sister should have acted differently? You know, maybe you'll say yes, but like over time you'll probably see that it's like she didn't have the ability to do that in her situation.
Correct. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm like, it's not giving her a pass, it's just taking my power back, almost like, you know what? You did all of this to yourself, you know? Yeah. So anywho, it's a story.
It's all story. It's all story. And when we break down the story and say, this was my experience, now we're starting to talk about real things. My experience was that this happened, she did this, and I felt myself, now she did this and it may have seemed like she did it to me, but she probably did it for her.
Right.
And I was too much of a sucker to look at that and see that I didn't have to respond.
Right.
You know, and it was my doing that responded. It was my decision to agree with this. You know, like it's kind of like you know, I heard a story the other day about someone who, you know, they got like 6 months to live, and in that 6 months they left their partner to be with their mistress.
Okay.
And it's like, yeah, okay, you have a right to be upset, but did you think about all the years that they were with you and possibly miserable because they wanted to be with someone else?
Right.
And they didn't have the strength within themselves. They were too weak to speak to you, and you were too locked up in your own little selfish world to see that they were miserable.
Right.
And so like, if they're going to be happy, and this is their last 6 months of their life, go let them be happy. There's nothing like you don't have to be, mean and hurtful to them. You are going through hard times as well as they are. But it's like, wouldn't you want the person that you love more than anything to be happy, especially when they find out they have 6 months to live, and then like be like, oh, I can't believe that they were with me that long. I feel like I feel like I could have paid attention more.
And it's funny because if we all knew our end date, would we live differently?
Right. Like, would we finally do the thing that we want to do? If we, and that's, and, you know, when we talk about Tao and it says, you know, the master knows real life because she has a relationship with death. She knows she's going to die. And so that brings her to knowing real life. Do you have a number for me?
5 keeps coming up.
All right. Well, let's just go to 5.
Let's see what it says.
Make it easy. Number 5. Impartial. Nature doesn't care. It knows everything is more than it seems. The master doesn't care. She knows that as well. It is good to be empty. Thus the master embraces the void. Like a bellows, she produces from emptiness. Stay centered. You know, a bellows, you know, it just opens and then it produces this air, right? It opens and brings in all of this air and then it just pushes it out. You can create so much heat, like if you're using it for fire, of course. It can produce from that emptiness, that empty space. And it's like you have that within you. Now, are you going to fill that with story? So that's going to take up more and more of your capacity to hold nothing, to hold that air. And that's going to keep you from being able to really get that heat, get the fire hot. And that hot fire can produce so much from, you know, ceramics to, you know, metal to, you know, you can do so much with that. And that's the value of that emptiness again. And it's about not caring about, you know, what other people think, but also not caring about what other people put on you as your responsibility.
Remember the other day, unicycle came up in my dream.
Oh, yeah,
and it's
that's right.
balance, right? So that's what I'm focused on is just balance and not feeling the need to fill myself up, whether it's with food, whether it's with energy of other people, just to sit quietly with myself has been really like earth changing. Like it has changed.
It's life changing. Yeah,
it's life changing. Yeah.
And it's life changing in a way that's it's not necessarily measurable. It's not like you got a new job. It's not like you got, you know, like a ton more money in the bank. It's not like you all of a sudden, but it's little bits. And now all of a sudden, a month later, maybe even, you are a different person living a different life that has all the same things in it.
Right.
And that's you. That's your love for yourself and your ability to, you know, in the most loving way possible, not care. And I tell this to people all the time. I love you, you know, but I don't care.
Right.
It's like, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you decide. I don't care if you tell story. You can tell story, but don't expect me to care about your story. I love you. I love you, and I don't care in the most loving way possible. Don't ask me to care.
Yeah. Right? Seriously.
Yeah, in a very blunt but very loving way. Don't ask me to care. Don't ask me to care about your addictions. Don't ask me to care about your struggles. Don't ask me to care about, you know, all of this stuff that's going on in your life, because that's going on in your life. And I appreciate that. And I love you. And I'm going to stand here and I'm going to stand by you in a way that is hopefully helpful for you. But I'm also not going to I'm not going to chase all of this with you, because that's a waste of my time and it's not serving you in any way. You want you want me to do these things and like ditch dive with you or whatever, but that's on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it, Martin John.
Love you. You have a great day. Yeah.
You too. Bye-bye.
Will do. Bye-bye. It's always great to have these different conversations that all really revolve around some of the some of the same things, right? Like I started today talking about an invitation to conflict, and we talked to Melissa, and we did talk about how she's dealing with her mom, and that there's those invitations to conflict with doctors and other things like that, and what's happening to me. And then we also talked with Sandy about this idea of like nature doesn't care. Nature not going to try and protect you because, you're something different or special. You're not. And it's wonderful, like when we take this like invitation to conflict and we say, well, I don't care. This is as we continue on with 69, we did read, this allows the host time to exhaust them, space to exhaust themselves without the master having to weaponize anything. And then it goes into wanting to control through aggression is foolish. This underestimates conflict and its results. Right? Wanting to control through aggression is foolish. And why do you want to control? Why do you want to control anything? This underestimates conflict and its results. What are the results of conflict? When you choose to conflict with another, you look down on them and lose your 3 lessons. I don't want to look down on anybody, right? I've been looked down on. Friends of mine have been looked down on. We see people being looked down on all the time. And I don't want anybody to be looked down on. And so that's why it's really important to, look back at this number 5 and say nature doesn't care. It knows everything is more than it seems. You may look down on someone and I don't have to care that you do that. You may be looking down, having been looked down upon. Maybe you have been looked down upon. And I don't have to care about that either. I can just say, okay, yeah, that happened. That was your experience. What's my experience of this, of you telling me that? That's what I need to look at. Like, what is my experience? And I don't want to look down on anybody. And then I lose my 3 lessons. The 3 lessons refer back to the 3 lessons, which is number 67. That's the title of 67. And the 3 lessons are compassion, moderation, and humility. Those are the things that life teaches you. It teaches you compassion, moderation, and humility over time. And those are the things, those are the 3 things that, I think we try to mitigate, right? We try to not have to learn those things, right? And this is what measurement is all about, right? We can measure something so we don't have to have compassion for it, or we can measure something so that we don't have to moderate it. We can measure something so we don't have to be humble in the face of it. In the 67, it says, with compassion, you'll be able to care for all things without having to ask if they deserve it. Imagine to be able to care for everything without saying, do they deserve it? My whole life has been people talking about, oh, they don't deserve it. It's interesting that the people who always talk about things that people deserve or don't deserve sometimes, very often haven't had to work for anything in their lives. Say, they don't deserve it. I'm special. Like, we all think we're special. Of course we do. None of us are running around saying, I'm not special. I mean, some of us are. I did that for a long, long time. But the people who are making the rules, the people who have been elected, the people that have been chosen, they're not running around saying they're not special. They're saying other people think I'm special, so I'm special. It reminds me of that Beatles song, I'm Great, and they tell me I'm great, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's sung by Ringo Starr, I don't know. But this number 69, wanting to control through aggression is foolish. This underestimates conflict and its results. When you choose to conflict with another, you look down on them and your 3 lessons, those lessons being moderation, compassion, and humility. By creating an enemy, you become an enemy. Marianne, how's it going?
Good. So I went to a church meeting last night, and I did bring in a little conflict at the end because they started talking about schools, And they're like, oh, where would you send your school? And I said, I'd send them to Clearbrook-Gonvig. I think we're a great school and we have a great administration. And the other one was a teacher too. And she's like, oh, but all they do nowadays is, there's nothing we can do. And I did not engage then after that, because I'm like, I'm not going to get in a fight over this. Another family homeschools. But I do believe in schools, and yes, we have our problems, but also we do a lot of good too. And we give a place for students. So I did bring in a little conflict last night, I feel, but.
I don't know. Conflict. You simply spoke your truth.
Uh-huh.
Someone else didn't like that, or someone else wanted to conflict with that, and they attempted to escalate. I mean, you simply said, this is what I would do if I had a child. That's not hosting conflict, and that's not what you did. Was you presented something and someone didn't like it, or someone didn't agree with it, and they stated what they didn't agree with. Now, that could have escalated into conflict. It seems like you stepped away from it. You were inspired to say something. You said something. And that which you said created experiences in everyone that heard whatever they heard. Remember, it's not what you say, it's what they hear.
Sure.
Right? So you say what needs to be said, and that's it. Sometimes you're going to say things like, I think this is the right way to go about it. And everyone in the room is going to disagree with you. And if they're disagreeing with you, whose problem is that?
That's their problem.
Right. Until you make it your problem. Right. So if they make a problem, and then you decide then to host this aggression, you can say, no, you're wrong, I'm right, and now you're escalating. But if you just come out and say, Clearbrook, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think Clearbrook is good. I would bring a child to Clearbrook without any hesitation. And then other people are like, well, they do, they do this and that. Burr, 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 burr. And then you say, okay, okay, good. Right?
Okay,
you get into your okay, good stance. You're just like, well, they would do this. Again, no need to defend yourself. You're not being asked to defend yourself, right? It's not required of you to defend what you say. You say what you say. They hear what they hear. Now, if you, and all you said was your opinion. You didn't try and stand up for them. You said, this is what my experience is. Now, if you were to say, you should bring your child to Clearbrook, that's a different story. If you say, I would do this, and I think this is a good idea, and then someone else says, well, they have a platform that they now want to, they want to get on their soapbox and say some things. That's fine. They're well within their right to disagree with you, right?
Right.
So no big deal. But that's not you. That's not you.
Not causing a lot of problems.
You're not no. Well, that may have been the impetus someone uses to have the problems they're looking for. Right? So that may very well be the impetus people use to say, I want to have a problem. I want to host aggression. And I'm going to use what Marianne said to allow that to happen. And then there might be someone that agrees with you and takes your side and and they think they're helping you, but you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I said what I said, and I'm going to move on. And that's it, right? So aggression is definitely like standing by all that and then pushing it forward, pushing your agenda forward. But it doesn't seem like you did that. I don't know if that's true or not, but
No, I didn't, because, and maybe it's just that we had talked a couple weeks ago about that letter or that paper I had to fill out, and I didn't. And then they had this meeting while I was out. I was gone last week, and I'm like, this is great. And then about 4:00 yesterday, my friend Keith texted me. He's like, hey, did you know there's a meeting at 6:30? And I'm like, shoot. So I ended up going, and it was like part 2 of the one I thought I missed. So maybe the aggression comes back to me, because I'm like, and now there's a part 3 next week, and I'm like, I can't go. I hate this conversation that's going on, and I'm not going to do the paperwork. And
yeah, right. And you may, at some point, the universe may, Tao may go, I understand what you're doing, but you can't avoid what you need to do. Yeah. And it may be a conversation that you need to have that maybe they don't want to hear, or maybe they're just waiting to hear it. We don't know, right? You have this feeling, and you're not alone. Other people feel this as well, but no one right now can articulate it. No one can stand up to the institution, right? We don't have that ability. And you might not have that ability right now. You may be getting groomed by Tao in order to have that ability so that you can stand up to an institution. Who knows? You don't have to go to the meeting next week. You can step back. You can say, look, this is distasteful for me. This isn't, And if someone comes to you and wants to have an honest conversation rather than being in a group, because that you get that mob mentality in a group,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And if you feel like you're going to be lynched when you get into the parking lot by a bunch of church folks, which is not unheard of, right?
Yeah.
You're not really being asked for your opinion. You're being asked to agree. And that's different. You don't have to go to a meeting in which they're not looking for the truth. They're looking to manipulate.
Yeah.
That's where you draw the line. You draw the line for yourself. Because anytime someone gives you an ultimatum, you just say no. I mean, unless you want to take it, but any ultimatum is just an invitation to say, no. Because if you're going to use something, if you're going to use, I remember the last time I had any sort of deep relationship, someone was just like, I'm going to use our relationship as collateral to my argument. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, if you're going to do that, then I'm out. Because if I'm so little, if I matter so little that you would just use our relationship and just say this is a deal breaker, and if you're yourself out there in the world, then I'm going to tell you that we can't have a relationship. And I was like, okay, well then we can't. I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to change the way I live my life just because you want to, wield something over me. That's not how I'm going to work. I'm not going to be that weak in my own life. And your church wouldn't want you to be that weak either in reality. But they do, institutions do want us to be weak in the face of their power. But they don't have any power that we don't give them.
Right.
You have a number?
I think I had 14.
You seem so sad.
I got, my neighbors, just had a lot of, my neighbors probably dying today.
Oh.
And my friend's mom passed away. So I got a funeral. So, yeah, just kind of heavy.
Heavy, yeah.
Yeah.
when we have death in our life, it is transitional for us. Like we get to experience those things. We get these experiences of like, and because you're connected to Reiki, because you have those experiences, you can appreciate those things. You can feel those in your system, and you can feel that love. And they experience life, they experience death differently than you do, right? You experience it as a loss. They're experiencing it as a gain. They're gaining access to God. They're gaining access to you. They're gaining access to all things. And this just allows you to tap into them and their knowledge and their love in a way that is deeper and more profound than you would have been able to do when they were stuck in the manifestation. Number 14 is hidden in plain sight. Look, and there's nothing to see. Listen, and there's nothing to hear. Reach, and nothing to grasp. These three nothings come together, they combine and are one. This is a mystery and cannot be named. It is present within all manifestation and forever returning to nothing. So subtle it cannot be identified, so conspicuous it is never hidden. Consider a time before history to show you how to yield. You cannot know you're doing it. You cannot prove you're doing it. But still you can be doing it. You are using it right now. But for what? As you enter this phase of people in your life passing, and this new sort of idea about the church group and all of that, instead of looking at how these things have either let you down or are coming out of your life, look at what you're gaining. Because you can't see it, you can't hear it, and you can't grasp it. All of those things were true when they were there, right? You could see the church group, you can hear the church group,
Yeah.
you can grasp the church group, you can grasp your neighbor and your friend, you can hear your neighbor and your friend, you can see your neighbor. They can't be seen anymore. But those three nothings come together, they combine and are one, and they are within you. That's the mystery. And it cannot be named. It is present within all manifestation. And it has always been present within you, but we were fooled by seeing. We're fooled by seeing and thinking like this person has a life that is going to be bookended with birth and death, but that's not true. That body is, sure. But was the body the thing? Or was it the conversation and the love?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're the last person I talked to before I left for my trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
And you cannot, and as it says, you cannot know if you're doing it, you cannot prove that you're doing it, but still you can be doing it. It's not always going to look the same. It's not always going to look like a positive thing. It's not always going to look like it's giving you gains. But when you can sit, you can just sit with your heavy heart and your heavy solar plexus, and then, utilize that Reiki energy and just kind of hold yourself and feel through that. Have a good cry. Because crying, again, crying, coughing, yelling, like all of these things, sneezing, it's all moving energy. And we got to move that energy because that energy can get stuck, especially like when we're in conflict, when we're conflicted with how the church group is acting or how we are being expected to engage with the church group or our neighbors or death or whatever. We can be conflicted because maybe it's okay. But maybe we don't want to do it that way anymore.
Right. Yeah, and the whole church thing, that is just getting me to see myself more.
Yeah.
So.
And those things, they take a toll. Yeah. Because especially in the mob mentality, if you say a thing wrong, you can be attacked as being as falling away from God. That's not true. You're just getting closer to God by loving yourself deeper.
Right. And in a different way than they're asking me to do.
Right. And that's what's the word I'm looking for? People won't necessarily be open to hearing that, right? That could be, there's a word for this. I don't know what it is right now. Maybe adverse to what they want to hear from you, or could make their mind spin out of control and think that they're going to fall away from God. But you can't. That's the thing. That's why I like Tao so much. No matter if you believe him or not, or like it or not, like, you're always part of Tao. God has all these, hoops that you got to jump through to prove that you're worthy of it. We talked about that one today, right? Like to do something and not ask if you're worthy of it, not ask if they're worthy of it. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you guys for joining me. Once again, this is Tao of the Day, where we talk about the Tao Te Ching. We talk about your life and how to really get the most out of the Tao Te Ching in this modern life of ours, and to get to a place where we're maturing, regardless of how the world wants or doesn't want to mature around us. We're amazing. And by being able to embrace how amazing we are, we go through this little by little. We take little steps to understanding ourselves, loving ourselves, so that we can love others. And then as we do that, those ripples go out into the world, and we change the world around us simply by changing ourselves. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you benefit from the work I do here, please consider supporting this show and me through Venmo or Buy Me a Coffee. You can find links to that in my profile. You can also pick up a copy of my Tao Te Ching. You can follow along. For those of you who don't have a copy, all of the people that do have always told me it's wonderful and they like that they have it. It's something they can put in their pocket or their purse. It's very nice and small. It's compact, and you can have it with you all the time. It's something that I used to keep in my car, and anytime someone came in my car and had some struggle, I would be like, hey, pick a number. I'd hand them the Tao and have them open to that page. It's an amazing resource. I'm glad you guys are here with me as we explore it. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.